So, welcome to the first run commentated in English. My name is Woody of MC, and in case you're wondering about what the MC stands for, that's the acronym for my former company, which I had over a decade ago. But let's get back to the run, and in this run we have a pedestal seat, as you may have already read in the title of the video. And I'm specifically commentating this one in the aftermath because the first run, which was a pedestal seat and which one I'm referring to, was about 2 weeks ago, on October the 2nd or 3rd or so, I think. And this one is just crazy. So I had a run which I commentated in German, in my native language. And this commentary was done for a friend of mine who had never played A Link to the Past before, or let's correct that, he did play A Link to the Past before, but he didn't never play the randomizer. So in this case, I wanted to tell him about the differences, show some stuff which he may have already forgotten over the past years, and yeah, just explain a bit so that he can understand what's going on there. And in this case, that one was not a pedestal seat, but I mentioned that there are pedestal seats out there in the randomizer world, and explained to him what a pedestal seat essentially is. So you may be familiar with that, but in the vanilla game you have different sections of the game where you first need to rescue Zelda from the dungeon in the castle, then have to visit 3 palaces with pendants in it, and after you collected all the 3 pendants, you are able to pull the Master Sword from the pedestal in the forest, and then head to the Dark World, visit 7 palaces with crystals in it, where the 7 maidens are locked in, and after that you make your way up to Ganon. So that's the basic principle which you have in the vanilla game, and in the randomizer, of course, everything is randomized. So it's the items, it's the order of the dungeons, so you can never assume that you have the same order each time, but it's randomized as well. So in this case, you have to collect all the 7 crystals, which are scattered over the complete world of Hyrule, and you need these in order to beat Ganon. So in the pedestal seat, which is something which you would like to avoid normally, you would have to collect all the 3 pendants as extra items, so that you can get to the pedestal and get whatever item is on the pedestal. So, like I said, normally this is something you would like to avoid because it's very time consuming, and you have to walk through 3 extra dungeons, which of course isn't fun always. So I had one of these pedestal seats 2 weeks ago, and I was missing a critical item, which was the hookshot. And this time, as you have already seen in the thumbnail, it's the boots. So the boots is something which is very special in terms of speedrunning or trying to speedrun a game, because they make you faster. And besides that aspect of being faster throughout the game, you have another effect, because there are some locations which are boots locked, so which means you cannot access them without having the boots. In this case, it's there's a palace in the light world, and it may be some other torch in Ganon's tower, which is famously known as the Bonk Torch. So if you do not have the boots, you cannot access them, and then you have to search for them all the way around, and let's hope that they are not on the pedestal. Well, in this seat, they were. The crazy thing which I was thinking about, and which I was thinking about when I decided to comment this run or not comment this run, was that it's the 2nd pedestal seat in a row within 2 weeks, and the 2nd pedestal seat in a series of 3 seeds. So 2/3 of pedestal seeds in a sequence of 3 seeds. Of course, you can never determine what's in a seed beforehand because it's randomized and it's yeah, you do not have any influence on it. But I thought that this would be some more, let's say, lucky than usual, and I was not pretty sure about whether that should be that way. Of course, random things are random for a reason, but that was a bit too much for my taste. And in this case, we'll have a look at this run. On the one hand, to show what mess is going on here when you have to deal with a pedestal seed, and on the other hand, I was interested to have a bit of commentary for my English viewers, or from everywhere in the world, but they are speaking English perhaps, and not just for the German ones. So in this case, yeah, have fun with it. So far we've started off with my usual route, which makes its way from Link's house to the castle dungeon, visit the uncle, get all the sword and shield stuff which you would normally get, but in this case it's different items, of course. So then making my way up to the church, going to the Lost Forest or Lost Woods, going to Kakariko because there are many chests which can contain items, and yeah, we found a few progression items so far, which are the flippers, the moon pearl, the flute, which I forgot to activate in Kakariko. That was pretty dumb, and of course the power gloves. So we have a bit of Dark World access right now. And we're setting off to go to the swamp area where we can open the dam, get another 2 items, and I'm not sure what this one is called. It's not Swamp Cave, I think, but the cave just east of Swamp. So there are another 5 chests, and then we're making our way around. Master Sword would be an indicator to go to Ganon's tower, because we will see on the first map chest, which we map check, which we had already, that we have the one of the pendants, and that's the pendant of courage. We have that in a vanilla location, so it's in Eastern Palace, where it would normally be. If you're not familiar with a Link to the Past randomizer, you should know that this special pendant holds an item for Sahasrara, or as we may call him, Saltpeter, Salt Shaker, Shashlik, Shish Kebab, something with a lot of sh and a's. So this name always varies, and the developers have made fun of that in the credits, because they changed the name and randomized it as well. So let's see what we have here in the cave this time. That's pretty quick work with the sword beams. And we have Quake and Bombos and some crap. Okay. So the additional item which Sahasrara or Shashlik normally holds can vary, of course. The fun thing is we have 2 red crystals here, and one thing to note about the crystals and the color of the crystals is that perhaps, I don't know if the video resolution is good enough, but you see a small 5 and a 6 right beside the red crystal icon in the item tracker down in the video, and this means that would be normally the crystals for the dungeons 5 and 6 in the Dark World, which would be the second to last and the third to last dungeon. And if you have both of these crystals, they open up the pyramid, which normally contained the so-called Fat Fairy, which held the silver arrows and the butter sword. And of course you have 2 items in that pyramid cave as well. So if you want to get these items, you would need to collect the 5th and the 6th crystal, which conveniently are both in the light world here. So these are dungeons which you can normally access quickly. But this would mean that 2 pendant dungeons are located in the dark world, and that we have 5 dungeons in the dark world which just contain normal crystals. So here I'm catching up with my mistake on not activating the flute in the first place. And please stand up for the Swag Duck anthem. But conveniently enough, we meanwhile have the bottle, or even 2 of them, so we can visit the sick kit, which you would need the bottle for. So, and with the flute active, we have now the opportunity to visit Hyrule in a more quickly manner. That was the reason why I first skipped this cave here in the southeast of Hyrule, which is yeah, not hard to access, but a long way to walk to. And if you do not have the boots, which we haven't, you would take a long time to walk there, and it's more convenient if you have the flute, or once you have the flute, just to fly to location number 8 and visit the cave in a more quickly manner. So basically I'm trying to reach a PB of sub 2 hours, which I was working hard for during the past year or so, and which I have not yet managed. So my PB is about 2 hours, 1 minute and a few seconds, if I remember correctly. And yeah, a few chances missed, because that one could easily have been a sub 2 hour run. But I'm aiming for sub 2, and yeah, the game is not always cooperative. So let's see what Hobo has. Oh, a single rupee. Wow. At least we have the flute, which makes things a bit easier and a bit faster to go around through Hyrule. So if you're just relying on the boots, they make you faster on the ground or wherever you have to go a certain route to just by foot. Also, well. Yeah, they make you faster on the ground, and to some locations where you cannot flute to. So in this case, we at least can reach the flute locations very fast, but are still slow when it comes to walking to location. So, and here we have the problem. Visiting Desert Palace was the first, yeah, almost the first one which we could access. Luckily we have the bow here, which would open up 2 other dungeons, namely Eastern Palace and the Palace of Darkness, which is normally the first palace in the Dark World, but we still have no idea whether this one would be a Pendant Dungeon or a Crystal Dungeon yet. Spoilers, it's a Crystal Dungeon, so in this case we would really need it, but we would need some other items to access the dungeons or get through them, which would be the lamp, and let's see, I think it's the hammer for the Palace of Darkness, of course, but we would not need the hammer for the Eastern Palace. The lamp is a bit optional, so in the previous runs I learned to navigate through the dark rooms without a lamp, or many of them at least. And I had a few lucky runs where I was even able to go through the maze in the Palace of Darkness without a lamp, which is pretty difficult, because you have, it's not just the maze, because you have enemies in there. You will run into them, lose hearts, and if you do not have so many hearts or a bad armor and not many healing items, for example, then you're pretty fucked. So in this case, you would get your health drained very quickly and die there, and would have to do or have to start from the beginning of the dungeon. And but there are a few caves and such which are pretty simple to do. This one, for example, where you can get the old man, so just evading all these rocks there. Ouch. So basically you can use your sword as some sort of guidance light to see where you are on the screen, and you first walk up right and upwards, then left, and then down left until you hit the wall, go up a bit, go left, pick up the old man, leave the room to the right, go a bit of right, go down and down right, and then just pressing right because there's a diagonal wall which you can use as a guidance, and then back out there. So that's a pretty easy one once you've practiced that a bit, and you would not need a lamp to access it. Normally the randomizer, depends on the settings of course, but normally the randomizer is designed in a way such that you would be able to access all the locations with the items you have, and if you're not getting an item or a specific item which you would need to access, and which would not be in the logic, then the game intends you not to visit it. So if you do it in the contrary, then you would have an advantage over what the game is thinking you should do. So, and there's the hammer. Pretty much the last item which we could collect here in the light world before we would have to head to the dark world and to Aghanim's tower. When I was playing this yesterday, I was always thinking, okay, you have to visit Ganon, and it's an Aga required seed, and oh my god, not again, because pretty much all of the past seeds were Ganon required seeds, and I was pretty fed up with that. So in this case, when I got the hammer, I noticed, okay, there are other locations which you can use to access the dark world, because we have the moon pearl and we have the power glove. So in this case we would use the access in Kakariko. But first, before we go there, let's have a last check of one or two chests in Eastern Palace. Just a quick check, in order not to miss something important. That's something which I normally do. if you have watched Andy Lasso, or Lasso, I'm not exactly sure how his last name is spelled, sorry Andy. He is, most of the time, he's doing a bit of a gamble. So, because you don't know where the items are, you would have to guess, you of course are visiting some locations which are pretty normal or logical. But sometimes if you can't find an item and the only chance you have left is to visit a dungeon which is a pendant dungeon, which you would normally try to avoid, you would have to dip into it and see where the item which you need is. But that's taking additional time, and as you want to keep that short, of course, in a run or even in a match, you probably might want to spare some of the dungeons and some of the locations in a dungeon which you would normally not need. So that's the gambling part here. I just checked the first chest and left the rest of the dungeon. So that's Shashlik here, holding an item which we do not know what it is. And we have the ice rod. So getting the fire rod and the ice rod early is yeah, not a big advantage, but you have a fire source now, which means we could light some torches which are in dark rooms. So in the normal logic, the game is thinking that you can access rooms which have a torch, as long as you have some sort of fire source, which could mean the lamp or the fire rod. In this case we have the fire rod. So we could also access Ice Palace if we would have the Titansmith, which would be these golden gloves, so the level 2 gloves basically. And but it's an indicator. That was the moment when I realized that I wouldn't have to visit a Ganon, or on the other hand I would need a lamp to climb the tower, and I still do not have the lamp, so I realized that it would be no good to climb up just to be stuck in a dark room. These dark rooms here in Hyrule Castle are pretty difficult, so you have mazes there, you have enemies, and basically the same mess like in Palace of Darkness, but with one difference. You would need to find a key to open a door, and the dark rooms later on in Hyrule Castle are designed in such a way that you have some catwalks through the room where you can fall off, and if you do not know precisely where to go, then you basically fall off and have to retry the room from the beginning. Oh my gosh. That was slow. And here we have the lamp, finally. But luckily I remembered that it was not needed to go to Ganon, because we have the hammer and can access the Dark World from Kakariko. So we're not wasting any additional time on Aga 1. Oh man, what have I done? And the map. So normally I would have taken a shortcut here using the magic mirror, which we do not have and which we will not have for a long time in this run, because that's the second one of the late items in the game which I had in this run. Late mirror is a big pain in the you know. So if you have read the video description and all of the Randomizer run descriptions do contain that hint or that question, which reads: if you have some advice on how to improve the run and or can identify what's been good or bad idea to do, I thoroughly appreciate your comments. Yes, I do. And to be honest, I have not gotten any comments so far on that, just besides the one from my friends, which answered in German, of course, and which answered me in real life and not in the video. So you're invited to leave a comment here and point out some things which could be improved. I know that there are a lot of mistakes in this run because I'm not a very active speedrunner and have just uploaded 2 runs to the speedrun.org archive. I'm basically playing the randomizer for fun, and I thought about joining a match or a tournament once in a while, but after I've read all the conditions of that, I came to the conclusion that it would not make sense. The most difficult fact, or the most the fact which blocks that one the most, is my slow internet connection speed. So with 1 megabit of upload bandwidth, it's not fun to do a stream, if even possible. And stable internet connection and at least somewhat fast internet connection would be a prerequisite to that tournament to take place. So in this case I would have to say sorry, no tournaments within the next years, at least until the point where I have got a fast internet connection. To be honest, there are fast internet connections in the region here, which you can get, but the point is they do not provide a static IP, and I would need a static IP address in order to provide web services and file transfer services and a lot of other stuff which needs a static IP address. That's the short story. So in the meantime, we've made our way to Kakariko in the Dark World, which is known as Thieves' Town. And Thieves' Town is a pendant dungeon, as we have already seen on the map. I updated the item tracker accordingly, so as we can see, the first 3 dungeons, which is Port, Swamp Palace, Skullwoods, would be normal crystal dungeons. Thieves' Town, which is a pretty quick one, and Ice Palace, which is a very bad one, at least in my opinion, are the pendant dungeons, and the remaining crystal dungeons are Misery Mire and Turtle Rock. So 2 of the longer dungeons. If you're in Go mode, which would mean that you have all the items which you would need to complete all of the rest of the dungeons, they're pretty fast to go through, except for Turtle Rock, of course. But if you're not in Go mode and you're looking for items, which I will be for the rest of the game, basically, they can be a pain. So the first dungeon which is accessible is Skullwoods, and I've never done that as the first dungeon in the Dark World, I think. But we have enough hearts, and we have the Fire Rod, of course, so we can complete the dungeon. And hopefully we will have to be careful a bit on the boss, because that's one of my least favorite ones, with all the rolling floors and spikes and that flappy action. not very much fun to go through that. Yeah, that's a nice one. Moving a small amount to the left, hitting that, what are these called? I'm not sure. That enemy, and just bounce it to the void. That's always fun. Bomb jumps. I hate them. They're not particularly mine, so... ouch. So, in the run with my German commentary, I mentioned that... okay, that was my first unintentional death. In the run with the German commentary, I mentioned somewhere in the Ice Palace, I think, that bomb jumps should be something which I should practice. To be honest, I'm a lazy person, and I think I'm not going to do it. On the other hand, it would shorten a lot of or many parts of Ice Palace. In particular, the to having to walk all the way around the switch and hit the floor switch to the red up position, I think, and then have to bomb jump around it in the first place. But this would speed up a few things, of course. But I think that's some of the glitches which I should learn if once I reached the sub 2 hour mark, and where it goes to few minutes and seconds and to optimization on a very detailed level. So that's a bit of a pain, dying in the Dark World's overworld. If you do not have the mirror and you do not have the Aga 1 fight completed, because then in this case you start over in the light world and have to walk all your way back to the dungeon. That's what just happened here. I do have two bottles, one with a blue potion and a red potion, but that's something I'd like to save for later. Especially since the boss is not an easy one. Yeah, this one's way easier if you have the Cane of Samaria, because in this case you could create a block and just put it on the switch instead of moving the statue. Which one would also come in handy would be the magic mirror, which of course we do not have yet, so that you can mirror out just to the entrance. You would not have to take the way back and move the statue, or the block in this case. Ouch. Stay away. Stay away. Okay. Basically I have two small keys here, and these would be enough just to run through the rest of the doors, which would need a key without having to fight a few enemies that drop a key in a later room. So this one was actually intentional, because I do not have the magic mirror to just mirror out to the entrance of the dungeon, but in this case this was a bit of a speed up, just to return to the entrance. Yeah, these wall marches are pretty annoying, and stepping on the wrong stone. Movement is a bit of a pain here in this second part of the dungeon, because all of these redads and the wall master, which of course picked me up and returns me to the entrance. Let's die here. That was intentional too, because with one heart left you do not want to start the rest of the dungeon, so let's refill. Okay, take two. Now it's some time for a bit of fire rod action. Just having the Master Sword here is, yeah, it takes a bit of time to just kill these enemies. Wow, that was bad luck. Nice to see that alien bones though. So that's a big waste of time which I'm doing here. Not thinking about that, being in the flow. Just wasting time, because I would have had the possibility just to go through the door, because I have already had the key, the small key. Okay, showdown. So let's see how we can deal with it this time. Okay, time for some refill. Okay, so that fight was pretty okay compared to many other ones which went not so well. And we have our first crystal. After 38 minutes and a half, so compared to the last runs, that time is pretty okay. During the last runs I had the case where I didn't have my first dungeon within the first hour, so the first one was at 1 hour and a few minutes, I think. And that's pretty bad, considering that you have 7 dungeons to visit and a time of 1 hour and 45 minutes to have a chance of beating the game in or under the sub 2 hour mark. So if you're doing the math, you could see that you would have approximately a quarter of an hour per dungeon, which would be less, of course, because you have to visit the overworld and collect some items in the overworld first. So basically you have under a quarter of an hour per dungeon. Let's say about 10 minutes or so. Which would give you half of an hour to visit the rest of the overworld. So in this case, we are pretty in time. I would take half an hour for the overworld stuff, which we have not completed to a total degree, but let's just assume one dungeon with 10 minutes and half of an hour for the overworld stuff. Then we would be at 40 minutes, and we exactly are at 40 minutes. So, not a good time, not a bad time. So, kick it. I mean, dig it. Yay, 10 arrows. So on my basic route, we're checking the south of Kakariko or south of Thieves Town and walking our way around to Hype Cave, which contains 4 chests and 5 items in total. Sadly enough, we do not have the magic mirror, so this would have granted access to another location here, which we had to spare for this moment. But let's see what Hype Cave has today. Basically, it's not so hype. I've seen many caves which had better items. Okay, and we have a big 20. A full heart container, 10 arrows again, and a piece of heart. So that's basically just crap. Not very much of hype today. But we have the hammer, and that's why we can continue our way on this loop around the east of Hyrule. That's why we would check the pyramid next. If you see that crack in the wall, that's exactly where the factory location is, and which we would need the red crystals for, which are dungeons 5 and 6 in the vanilla game. But spoilers, we're not going to reach that in this run because we simply don't need it, because we have all the rest of the items and can't expect something useful in there. And the second thing is that we could access this cave, just as I mentioned before, when we have completed Desert Palace in the Tower of Hera. And this would not happen until very late in the game because, yeah, we need the boots. And spoiler alert, we would need the boots to complete Desert Palace because there's an item on the torch which we would need to complete the rest of it. And if you have watched carefully to the rest or to the previous part of the run, then you would have noticed that we visited Desert Palace already, and that we have found that item on the torch, and that it was a small key. So we would need that small key to open a door on the east part of the dungeon, which contains 2 chests, and normally this would be the big key and the compass, I think. And so in this case it's quite vanilla. And of course we would need the big key to access the boss, so even if we have a power glove and a fire source, we would still need the big key, of course. So, Palace of Darkness is one of the most, not complex dungeons, but it's holding a lot of chests, and 14 if I remember correctly. And so this would normally be a good place to start in the Dark World, even if it's not a crystal dungeon. In this case you would just check all the chests in the dungeon and ignore the boss. But in this case we are doing it the other way around, because we need to complete that dungeon. In this case we would find the big key. And since we do not have a small key to open the door on the left part of this room, I'm just going down here just to take a bit of a shortcut, finding a small key here which would be needed for that door, and going the tunnel route. So normally if you would have the mirror at that point of time, you could go back to the entrance of the dungeon and complete the left part of the dungeon, which holds a number of chests. In this case I decided to go straight to the boss and fight it first, because that automatically returns me to the entrance of the dungeon, and have a look at the chests later. Taking that damage on the spike there wasn't actually intentional, but I didn't mind in hard less. So there are chances to refill that before we go to the boss, and meanwhile it's not a problem if I'm not at full health before going to the boss. We could compensate for that. Going a bit to the left here to be in a comfortable position to hit all these turtles. This is very easy to solve if you have the butter sword. Then you can just hit the ground, turn the turtles over and hit them with the sword, and they're down in one strike. So with a Master Sword, it's a better idea to hit them twice with the hammer. Not a very convenient pattern here today. So taking the bow here was the weapon of choice, because hitting it with a sword can be a bit tricky. And we have the Cane of Burner. That one offers some protection by swinging a ring of light around you, which just does not protect you from damage, but also hits the enemies. But be warned that this one introduces a lot of lag. Okay, and we are back at the dungeon to just grab the rest of the chests. So this one is a big mistake, because I should have known that I have just one single small key which I would need to access. Yeah, and you see me thinking. Which I would need to open the door here. Just to get up to that chest, which yeah, inevitably has to contain another small key, because there's another door which needs a small key, and yeah, that's the only way I could take through the rest of the dungeon, so I could have spared that one and just have saved a couple of seconds or even half a minute. That was pretty dumb. Not having the mirror here even makes this more of a mess and a bit more slowly. So let's take the right path this time. That was the door I was speaking about. So just to make use of the time that I have, I'm throwing a bomb over there. There are many speedrunners who are able to hover to that small ledge. I'm not. Or bump over. I think I got that once, but haven't practiced that in a while. And normally, if you would have the boots, you would just rush through all the rupees here, or dash through the rupees. In this case, I'm trying to grab all of them because I'm pretty low in rupees, and I would need 500 rupees for King Zora, which I have not yet visited, but the location is open, so it probably could hold another item, or even 4 items, if I'm counting correctly, which could be progress items, of course. So now we have the 500 rupees, and here we have the Titansmith. Pretty nice find. And that's the maze I'm talking about, which I navigated in the dark once, or twice I think. The first one was pretty okay, and I had no big trouble with that. But for the second time, for whatever reason, navigation was a bit more complicated. And I do not have all of the maze in my head or memorized in my head, so yeah, it can be some bit of a pain to go through that without remembering exactly where to go. Talking about King Zora, we are now visiting him, and the 4 items which we could get are 2 chests here behind the Waterfall of Wishing. So that's a big red and a heart piece. Some more crap to go. Okay, the 3rd item is just bombs, so we will ignore that. And since we have the flippers already, we can use a shortcut by walking on the upper edge of the screen, just swimming there. This would be pretty quick if you would have the boots, which, spoilers, we have not. And the shovel. Yeah, my bad. You can flute in this position. About that point in time, I was looking to the timer yesterday when I played it and said, oh, we're just sub 1 and we already have 2 dungeons finished. Well, I did not know what was going to happen, so basically this would be a relatively good time if all the rest of the items which you would need to complete the game would be there, but I had no idea at that point in time that it would be a pedestal seat, so yeah, bad luck, as usual. Hammering these without the boots is just slow, but I've measured the time and found out that using the boots is just a few seconds faster, so I'm not exactly sure about the exact amount of time, but I think it was 14 seconds without with the boots and 16 or 18 seconds without the boots, so just saving a few secs. But of course, if you're playing this randomizer in a tournament or in a match, every second counts. So in this case, you would be glad to have some sort of yeah, speed up there. Not to mention just the speed up from not having to walk all the time. Also, not having the magic mirror is, yeah, or having the magic mirror would be a great time saver here, because you would not have to go save and quit and go back to Kakariko Village or flute back to Kakariko Village. That's a bit of a tedious work here. Oh, now we got some rupees. Wow. Just right in time when we do not need it anymore. And back to the dark world we go. There's the purple chest left on that spot where the smithies are. Or as the credits sometimes say, the red smiths. And we would need to take that to the Gary. That was just an insider one for those who have watched Final Space. So there's exactly one location which we could check here, and that's the western cave here. Since we do not have the magic mirror, we cannot access the cave on the east of Swamp. Not Swamp, Randomizer, sorry. But we've gained some knowledge, and we've just witnessed that Randomizer can be opened with bombos. So we have bombos already, so that would not be the problem, but we are still missing the hookshot, and we're missing the Cane of Samaria, which would allow us to complete the dungeon. Since we have the hammer, the hammer and the Cane of Burner, we would just have one additional spot here, which is the Burner Cave. And all that pain for just a big red. So basically we are running out of locations, and that's why we have to visit our first pen dungeon, and we will have to complete it without knowing that it would be useful later. We have so far completed the Palace of Darkness and Skullwoods, which is just 2 dungeons, and as you can see, the time where we completed it was over 10 minutes ago, so if there would be any dungeon which would be accessible until now, I would have taken that choice, of course, but we have not, so in this case we would have to rely on finding an item here, hopefully not having to dig too deep into it. But when it comes to games, I'm a very unlucky person, so in this case, if there's a big mess which you could take along with you, I'm going to take it. So that's there's a German saying, roughly translating to, if you're lucky in love, you have bad luck in the game, and that's basically what I have. So but I'm completely satisfied with that, because having a lucky marriage is way more important than having luck in a game, of course. Okay, now that's something useful and a critical progression item. So, yeah, it was a good idea to dip this dungeon, at least. There could be 2 more items to go, so 300 rupees here. Some badass enemy there. And there might be another useful item on the boss, so in this case we're just sacrificing that bit of time just to fight the boss. Flint and steel are a good match. Yes, indeed. So that's some convenient use for the Cane of Burner, by the way. You're running out of health, but still have some magic left, and the Cane of Burner at hand, then yeah, why not make use of it? 3 hits in the head and he's dead. So that's our first pendant. And now that we have the hookshot, we have enabled some of the locations at Death Mountain. Death Mountain East, to be exact. But we have also activated some of the locations in the west of the mountains, because we can take the complete tour around and use the hammer to get through the hammer barrier on top of the mountains. It's just a big walk all around of the mountain area. In this case I made the mistake and thought that we would be able to access the location here, because I remember that the locations are accessible, but I didn't keep in mind that you would need the mirror to go there if you're taking this route, and yeah. A few seconds later, just remembered that and had to fall off that cliff. Also, in this location, I just remembered not having the magic mirror, and that I would have to take the way around here instead of using the glitch, which is only available in the Japanese 1.0 version of the ROM, which would allow you to remove blocks or push blocks by just mirroring against them. So basically what you're trying to do there is to move the block, but while you're moving it, or while you're pushing it, just spam the item button, the mirror equipped, and in this case the block disappears. So we have a heart container, the bug net, another piece of heart, and half magic. That's quite convenient. I can remember the times when updating the item tracker in parallel to playing the game was just a bit difficult, and meanwhile I found a way to use some spots where I would have the time to update it, just like screen transitions, door transitions, and so on. Just bombs on floating island, so we could spare that location. Oh, bootless spiral cave. That's slow, pretty slow. I didn't measure the time for the boots versus non-boots route or procedure, but A rough estimate would say maybe it's perhaps half the time. It's just an estimate. Oh, silly me. Just could have activated that. So at least we know that it's Quake, which we would need for activation of that symbol. And we're good to go, since we have Quake. Okay. One piece of crap, two pieces of crap. There we have either. Just to complete the series. Just when we were talking about amulets or medallions. So now we can access both of the medallion dungeons either way. Moha. Yeah, I'm a big fan of puns, by the way. So, A Link to the Past Randomizer is perfectly joining that strategy. As you may have seen on the blind fight. They told us that flint and steel are a perfect match. And there's the magic mirror. Just only 1 hour and 18 minutes in. Say what? And this one just tuned in right in time when I would need it to... Oh, Master Sword doesn't even hit these Lionels. Just right in time to walk over here and without the need to have to restart in the game by saving and quitting and just flying to the #1 location. So in this case we can conveniently jump out of the dark world here, look at the Ether tablet, so that's the magic powder, which opens up another location in Kakariko. The Mad Batter, to be precise. And which makes warping to the entrance of a dungeon way more convenient. Some sort of green goo and the big key. Yeah, if I have the hookshot, normally I just destroy this guy, because I'm falling off a cliff later, and this one's always annoying. So we have the map. Small key for the door in the first floor. So, and as you may have noticed when I pulled down the menu, the compass is still missing, and if we're not getting it here, this would mean that it must be in the... Okay, it's not, so this means that it must be in the only chest left in this dungeon, which would be in the basement. So the small key we just got in the big chest would open that door, so we can leave the dungeon and leave the compass behind. The most useless item in the game. So I just said that we opened another location in Kakariko, which would be the well and the mad batter. And perhaps you're wondering why I'm switching to the dark world. Yes, I have the mirror in the meantime, so we can just mirror out to the light world at that specific spot. And just a piece of heart. For those of you who are wondering, meanwhile I've become some more confident about not having to deal with yeah, much damage. So in this case I'm just picking up the big heart containers, but not all of the pieces of heart. So if they're in a pretty... oh, and they're silvers. Nice. So in the locations which are hard to reach and which just contain a piece of heart, and knowingly contain a piece of heart, I would usually spare them, just to save some time. But I wouldn't go for big heart containers either if they're in a pretty uncomfortable location, such as the tree stump, which you can only reach after beating Aga 1. So in this case we had a big heart container there, but I'm not going to fight Aga 1 just for a heart container. That would be pretty much a waste of time. Oh, could you read that? I can't. Just saying Hank, waves, and bird, 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 wave, bird, Hank. Looks like Hylian ASCII. Ooh, that's actually a nice find. Some armor upgrade. Actually, that saves some time, which I would otherwise have to invest into health management. So having a better armor or better swords is saving a bit of time, actually, because you do not need to watch your health meter, get refills, or having to care about big bosses which need not a lot of hits to kill. So nothing special here on the ledge. At least this would mean that the cape would not be required. Spoilers, it's one of the last items we would get. Just before the boots, of course. Ooh, 2 fairies in a row. Must be my lucky day. And there's the Cane of Samaria. Gotta be Cane. So now we have all the items which we would need to access and complete Misery Mire. So I think this would be a good idea to go to. And actually we could access Turtle Rock with that one too. Let's see, we could even complete it. So hopefully we would find the boots in one of the remaining dungeons, which is Misery Mire and Turtle Rock. So, or something like that. I was thinking about this time. Ah yes, and Swamp Palace is also on that list, of course. At that moment I was still thinking that a pedestal seat would not be an option because I got one just 2 weeks earlier, and I was still hoping for not having a pedestal seat so quickly again. Okay, just a bit earlier than I remembered. So now we have the cape. Another good item for protection, so... this will come in handy later. By the way, if you're wondering what this kind of lava lamp stuff is in the center of the Triforce piece, or in the Triforce symbol, that's actually a program called Lava Lamp. It's a small freeware program for Windows back from, I think, the year 2001 or 2002, just a fun toy. And I still had it in my fun stuff folder, and yeah, rediscovered it just a few days ago, and I thought, hey, that would make up a cool item and a cool piece of deco in on my screen, so just picked that one up. Basically added a portion of it to the Triforce symbol and cut off the rest of the edges. Actually looks like a lava lamp. And the timer that you can see in the lower left corner of the screen is a program which I've written on my own, so basically fitting my personal needs, featuring a countdown timer, just a normal timer, time display, and something like that, allowing for transparency, which means you can put it anywhere on your screen, and add some arbitrary text to it. When other speedrunners used their timers, I was not exactly sure how this was going on and what tool they used or what kind of mechanism was behind their timers. So I was always thinking, okay, someone had written a program for that, but basically when I was dipping into OBS stuff and how all that stuff works, I was figuring out, okay, you could use a text file for that, you could use some sort of website or yeah, PHP or HTML script and just grab the output from your browser. But I already had that program at hand for a different purpose, because a friend of mine once asked me to write some sort of a timer which he could use for projection on a New Year's party. Just as a countdown to midnight. And yeah, that was a few years ago. And I would never have thought that this program would serve a completely different purpose a few years later. But now it does. Surprise! We have no boots. Yet. And still. So, since we have the red sword and can make quick end to the boss, we would use silver arrows for the last part. It's a pain to hit him, but once you do that, it's just one hit. Argus was his name, yeah. In the meantime, I'm pretty much familiar with all the English names of the levels and dungeons, but the bosses sometimes are still a pain. Let's see, on Eastern Palace it's Armor's Knights, then it's not Moldorm, it's Moldorm is on Tower of Hera, but Desert Palace is I think I forgot that. Lanmolas, yeah. Aga 1, of course. Don't know how the boss is called in Palace of Darkness. Argus in Swamp Palace, Mothula in Skull Woods, Blind in Thieves Town. Ice Palace was Cold Stare, Misery Mire, Vitreous, yes, right, Vitreous, and Turtle Rock. We have Trinex. Oh. See, not that bad. Just takes a bit of time to remember. I've seen runners complete this room in one go, so that's pretty complicated, I can tell you. Beating that one in a single cycle is... you need to be extremely quick for that. Have good control of your hookshot and your sword. And don't mess up with the BMOS. So normally this would be it. So after getting the big key, I would normally have gone straight to the boss, but knowing that we would need the boots to complete Desert Palace was pretty hard requirement just to leave all the rest of the chests unopened. So I knew that I would have to open all the rest of the chests in this dungeon just to find the goddamn boots. Oh, come on. Just give me that fairy. Okay, now that's a big waste of time actually here. Just for a bit of safety. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Okay, now we're an alien again. Actually, it looks a bit like the alien from the movie Alien. But to come back to the pun part of life, you should never judge an alien based on its spacesuit. So we are slowly making our way to Vitreous, the boss of this dungeon. Still having faith that the boots would be somewhere on the boss. or at least in Turtle Rock. Having no boots here makes this one a bit more tedious. Otherwise, you may have seen that in previous runs of on my channel. I'm using the sword dash technique for that most of the time. Which means running from the left to the right and back to the left. And thus damaging all these eyeballs with my sword. Luckily, silver arrows are making quick work of the big eyeball. And we got a small key. Wow. 3 small keys left. By the way, this run was configured to use the 100% inventory accessibility, and perhaps I will go for 100% locations the next time, which means we would be able to reach all the locations which could be behind locked doors. But in my opinion, this would make would take some extra time, because you could be left in locations where nothing special is, so just wasting a bit of time. And this one is somewhat more straightforward, where you cannot access locations where the game thinks they're useless for you. For example, in this mode, you can have a big key chest, a big chest key in a big chest. So of course this would not make sense in a normal game where you would like to access the location, but in this case it saves some time, because it simply gives you a set of locations which you would not need to access. Dead rocks are annoying. Yes, they are. And by the way, apropos dead rocks, I don't know how efficient my noise cancellation on my microphone is, but if you're listening carefully, perhaps you can hear some chainsaw massacre going on out there, because they're cutting down some trees in the garden of my neighbor. So it's not me swinging a chainsaw. Exactly at the right point in time. Ooh, true. That one's going to give us some armor upgrade, by the way, which we don't know yet, of course. this location, you should know that if you do not have the hookshot already, you should not start to the top of the railway or whatever that is, but to the bottom. So you should start your way down in order to be able to reach the target just in time, and the door does not close prematurely. I'm not exactly I'm not sure how this is pronounced correctly. I think it's prematurely. Let me know in the comments. Just a ferry to go. And we still have no boots yet. So I'm still hoping to find these in Mimic Cave, which is outside of Turtle Rock, of course, and can be accessed through the light world. That was pretty useless. Nope, just a piece of heart. Laser bridge, perhaps. We'll find out soon. So we have a big red, another big red, and the most useless item in the game. Just besides a small key which we would need to open that door. Okay, time to fight Trinex. So, that one was just pretty unlucky. Normally this boss is not a big deal if you're walking in there with a butter sword and are not missing your target. But once you miss it, things get pretty annoying, just like this one. Okay, and here we go. Still no boots though. And you may have guessed it, that was the exact moment when I realized that we would have to dip into other dungeons just in order to get the boots. So the idea is to start with the easiest one first, which would be Eastern Palace. So we are warping just there to position number 5. I think Ice Palace is my least favorite dungeon in the game, because it takes about 10 minutes if you have to traverse through the whole dungeon. But before we are walking through a complete dungeon, I thought it would be a good idea to check the last location available on the map, which would be Catfish. But without the boots, of course, it's a long way, so I've ignored that for a long time. Just pick up some refills here. So, just a shortcut to reach the first chest on the eastern side of the palace. If you have the hookshot, you can go down instead of up and skip a room and just hookshot over to that chest. And since we have not found the boots on the catfish, we would need to dip this dungeon in order to have the chance to find them here. And hopefully we do. Or so I thought. Also, I think I never got that glitch here in the room where you throw a pot to the right and just have another second it's not a Stallmaster, it's Stalfos, where you only have to fight 2 Stalfos. Never got that glitch. In case you're wondering what the noise in the background is, the lumberjacks are back. Oh lord. Completely messed up that one. Which I have done very often in the last time. Not paying attention to the details. Being sloppy in execution. Just like this one. And we have another big red. So let's see what Shashlik has for us today. Butter sword. At least it's something useful. Didn't we get a mushroom earlier? I think I forgot to update the tracker. But I think I corrected that later. Just for the record, I observed that for a long time in many matches and tournaments, and found that pretty annoying. I mean, the tracker not being accurate or updated in time, and I know that's pretty bad for views if the tracker is not in sync with the original game. So I came up with a solution for that, and tried to implement a small script or program which would read the effective state values from the RAM, which is processed by the emulator in this case, and update the values to the tracker accordingly. But unfortunately I did not prevail, because reading shared memory is not an option on the SNES 9X emulator, and on the SNES it's not an option either. So in this case I'm unable to read from the memory of the program, because it's just requires some code on the emulator side which would need to be implemented. And yeah, I guess that's not a feature request which would be implemented in a while or even accepted. So in that case I just downloaded the source code of SNES 9X and had a look at the C++ code of that, and yeah, found it to be rather messy. Sorry, I'm not a C++ programmer, by the way. Mainly focusing on web stuff like PHP, JavaScript, and all the full stack stuff around it. So perhaps it would be an idea to contribute to the item Randomizer, because it's written in PHP and perfectly maintained by VTorp and friends. So that would be an option, but of course this wouldn't help the item tracker problem to be solved. But let's see what we can get in the future. Yes, and of course this kind of auto tracker would just be an option for Microsoft Windows. At least until someone feels free to port it to some macOS or Unix style operating systems. So there we have the big key. Still no boots though. So, glad we have the butter sword, so that we can give Cold Stare a quick shot. One hit with the Bomber's Medallion, just to give him a warm up. And then go into aggressive mode. There we go. Just bombs. Nah. Okay, there's our last pendant. And actually it's time to check the pedestal. Gotta go fast. There you go. So, thumbnail time. Okay, now we have the boots, and basically this opens up the last dungeon and getting access to the big key in there. But before we're going to do that, we're just checking a couple of other locations. If I remember correctly, we got a mushroom, so now I checked that mistake. And that one's going to hold a nice little armor upgrade. So actually, I'm not missing any more items, so I have no idea why I'm going to check the location I'm going to check in a few seconds. Maybe it's just for completeness. And my personal curiosity, needing to know what's in this chest. Or in these chests. Two of them. First, we have the King's Tomb. With a mildly annoying bee out there. And a soldier, which is a bit too inquisitive. Okay, hard containers. That would be a reason why I could have checked it. Makes sense at least. And just another big 20. So, let's go. And here's the small key, which we need to get to the big key. And to get that, that's all we need. The boots are or were the item which we needed to exit them, just to bonk the torch. And the map it is. And vanilla big key. So, since we don't have to check the big key chest, we're just mirroring out there. Updating our tracker again, which we forgot. Ouch, that hurts. So let's make some quick work. Ganon roll us down with silver arrows, if possible. Okay, one hit. 2 misses. Just 3 cycles. Not a very good one, but also it's not a very bad one. I can live with that. And off we go to Ganon's Tower. There's a game which is played in every tournament, so you could guess a number between 1 and 22, I think it is. Which chest will be the one in Ganon's Tower which holds the big key. So, if you're going to guess your number, I would suggest to do it now. If you're going to make a good guess, or trying to make a good guess, then take into consideration which my usual kind of luck is. And we're reaching Ganon's Tower at 2 hours, 24 minutes and 24 seconds. Which is Not a very bad time for a pedestal seat, but is about 40 minutes after I should reach it when I'm going for a PB. So in my last runs where I had a new PB was around 1 hour and 45 minutes. So that would be the mark, which is my golden mark for reaching the PB. So if I'm not opening Ganon's Tower before 1 hour and 45 minutes, then it's pretty unlikely to get a new PB. So just did a quick check of the 2 chests on the right side, then traversing the left side of the tower. Just remember to pick up that small key. Actually, traversing Ganon's Tower this time was not as complicated or as bad as it was during many of my last runs. So we got quite a number of small glitches and optimizations here, which I was not able to get during most of the last runs. And of course I can tell you, training is everything. Usually I practice that on a weekly basis, so I'm uploading weekly runs, as you could see on my channel. So if you're opting for a tournament or something like that, of course I would recommend to do that on a more frequent basis. So once a week is not a very good rate for training if you're going to improve your skills on a more drastic level. So it's quite enough for me because I'm not running tournaments, so in that case I'm okay with that. The point is I'm still seeing a slow gain or an improvement in execution, overall execution, and yeah, the little glitches that exist out there. But like I said earlier, I'm going to spare these until I get below sub 2. See, that one I mean. Normally I do not get that one, for whatever reason. Things are getting close on the left side now. So we have 4 chests left. Okay, 3 chests left on the left side. Personally, I'm not a fan of the right side of Ganon's Tower. Don't know why. It's not exactly worse or something like that, but okay, that was a nice one. Yeah, it's not exactly bad or something like that, but just don't like it. Maybe, perhaps, because of that torch lighting stuff, and not sure about that. On the other hand, according to my previous experience, there's a higher chance to get the key on the left side, because it's simply more chests on that side, which you're able to check. Ah yes, and now I remember what's the pain on the right side. It's these floor tiles, which are not very cooperative today. The most annoying thing is to dodge that wall master as well, because otherwise that will happen. And that one's what's going to happen. It will be picked up from the floor, brought back to the beginning of the dungeon, and he would have to start all over. Okay, time to pick up the fairy and 50 rupees. Wow. That was dumb. Could have pressed right button only once. Don't know why, but menuing. I've become a bit sloppier on menuing during the last runs. Don't know why. Just like that. Okay, and last ones to go. Wow. Okay, so let's ascend the tower. Finally. Nice shot and nice shot. Wow, that was good. Not as fast as most speedrunners are, but still good. Okay, and as good as the first one was, but that one was mildly annoying. Some unnecessary bonk. These rooms are a pain, always. Or at least most of the time. Okay, lucky one this time. That hole is number 2. And 1 and... Oops. 2 cycle. Here we go. So up to everyone's most favorite trick in the game. That one's so satisfying. And I think that's the first time where I got all of the 4 with ropes in one go. Yeah, not bad. I never tried that direction, I think. So, not exactly one cycle. Come on. Oops. Just menu to the wrong side. Normally I picked this one up as a backup, so... Whoa, 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 whoa. Be nice. Be nice, Troldon. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for dying with Moldorm Airlines. Just the bad pattern which I expected. Oh, come on. And finally a triple. Okay. Ganon time. But at least we have silvers and the butter sword and enough magic refills. So that one should not be a big show. So let's toast him. The enrichment center would like to know that. Okay, too fast. So in that case, I think I'm not even going for the torch glitch. Had to learn this one for the silverless Ganon fight, since it's a real pain not to get it. You're wasting tons of magic on that. So since we are just... Oops. 4 silver arrows away from the final blow. But now we have to start over. Grats. Hi Ganon, did you miss me? And here we go again. Cool. Now let's speed up things a bit. Just bonking to the torch with my back. When he's down there, it's nice to get 3 hits in per cycle. 1, 2. Okay, 2.5. Oh no, silver. Yeah. So now we gotta be a bit careful. Or a bit more careful at least, compared to the last time. Oops, wrong weapon. Ah. The good thing is if you hit him from the side, that you can get 2 hits in, just like that one. Oops. Stay focused, do not fall off the cliff. Okay, and here goes the final blow. Woo! Woo! We got it. And with a final time of 2 hours, 43 minutes and 47 seconds, another pedestal seed has been finished. Also, VTorp was here. I think the name was VTorp with a V in the beginning. But perhaps that's a nickname because he likes bees. I don't know. Okay, now let's celebrate the great ending music of A Link to the Past, which by the way is available on my channel, played on a pipe organ. Pretty nice one. Salt Shaker's Homecoming. Salt Shaker, nice one. Yeah, if you have browsed through my channel in the past, you may have noticed that I'm not just making gaming videos or recordings of my practice runs. That's actually a byproduct of my recording. Usually my channel is about music, and specifically about pipe organ music. And as I'm playing the pipe organ as my hobby, or in my spare time, I've uploaded quite a few pieces from video game music, movie soundtracks and all that stuff. And yeah, of course I'd like to invite you to scroll through a bunch of these. On the top right edge in the info box corner you'll find not just a link to the video with the current PB and that playlist of randomizer runs, but also a link to the video game playlist, or video game music playlist, VGM. And yeah, you're invited to scroll through that and pick your favorite game and listen to what's there. And I can tell you, all kind of music sounds great on a pipe organ. Many people think that these are just located in churches and have some clerical touch on it, but that's not the case actually. Many pipe organs are located in churches, of course, but also in concert halls, schools, in public buildings like in town halls or city halls. Just have a look at Australia, for example, where you have some organs located in the town halls of Sydney and Melbourne and somewhere else. And if you're living in the United States, then I would recommend you to visit the Wanamaker building in, I think it's Philadelphia, which has the second largest pipe organ in the world, but the one with the most playable pipes, and another one still under construction or reconstruction at the Atlantic City Convention Hall, which is the biggest one. And if you're somewhere around there, I would definitely recommend visiting them. They're monsters, by the way. Okay, so 2 hours 43 minutes 47 seconds. Not exactly a PB, but it's pretty consistent considering that my last pedestal seat run was about 2 hours 40 minutes, if I remember correctly. Yeah, 2 hours 40 minutes 9 seconds exactly. And that was about 2 weeks ago on Saturday, October the 3rd. So at least we can see that playing the whole game is somewhat consistent. There may be differences in routing, which can cause the few minutes of divergence. There could be items, of course, because we didn't find the boots in this place early, so in this case we didn't find the boots early, so that of course slowed down all the process and all the progress from the beginning to the end. Fluting around would be an option, of course, but that's not everything. Yeah. Hope you had fun on this run and the commentary. At least I did. And let me know in the comments if you're interested in having other runs commented, even maybe in the aftermath as post-commentary or in real-time commentary. Same goes for questions, of course. So let's have a look at the stats. Which, by the way, I missed when I was watching the credits yesterday. I played that. So let's see the important stuff. Time found. First sword. Upgrade 4 minutes after. Pegasus boots 2 hours and 14 in. The flute at 4 minutes and the mirror 1 hour and 16. Yeah, late items. I think these pretty much killed the run. And the GT Big Key at 20 of 22. Wow. So that would explain the low number of bonks. Normally that's a bit higher. And a collection rate of 199 of 216. Yeah, not very good either. The less the better. Okay. See you next time, guys and gals. Bye bye.